So this video is a little bit more about Bryan Ingham and how I based a character on Bryan Ingham. So with Bryan, when I asked him if he would be interested in this story and if I could base a character on him, it was really fun because there were a lot of things that I wanted to use from his life that it was almost like a combination of things. And so he has a brother who works in Elko, Nevada, in a martial arts gym, and so that brother has a lot of experience, with fighting and martial arts. And so, from conversations and observing his brother, Bryan was able to give me insight that otherwise I wouldn't have into fighting. And so, instead of having that be like another character, I just wound that expertise into Bryan's character in the story, and so that he had like actual like fighting experience. So Bryan, for a couple of months around his high school years, Bryan lived homeless in Washington D.C. and always had a lot of I guess empathy for the homeless, and that he could really understand a lot of their circumstances and how they got there. And in talking with one of his teachers at some point, she said that in a conversation she had with him, that when he was in high school, he thought that he would be homeless someday. That's like the kind of like the future that he saw for himself. And it's remarkable that he did get a bachelor degree and was going on to get a master's degree at Johns Hopkins. And so it's just pretty amazing that he never even came close to that ever. He really shot for really, really ambitious things and really remarkable goals. But because of that history, and any time he and I went different places, we would talk about the homeless, and for both of us, it was kind of a soft place in both of our hearts. And so in the story, I decided to make Bryan Ingham's character homeless, and that he was homeless by choice. And then the story gets into why, like, later on. But those were some of the different things that I wove into Bryan's character. And when I was first deciding to work with the story, I looked at it, I'm like, okay, like, how can I approach this in a really fun, creative way that isn't done very often? And I thought of like method acting that actors use to, like, in order to like really get into the shoes of a character, really get inside of a persona. I was like, what would be the literary version of that? And so I was like thinking, and I was like, I think it'd be fun to, like, get the story to a certain point and then have, whatever character that's based on someone, call up that person and say, hey, like, this is what's happening in the story. This is what's going on. What would you do? And then he'd tell me, and then we'd go to the next checkpoint. And so that's how I did this story. And it ended up being like super fun. And I don't know if there are many other writers who've done that or tried that. I know that there are lots of writers who base characters on people that they know, and that works really well. But I wasn't sure if anyone had ever involved another person to that extent, to where the person's answers were actually like changing the direction of the story. And so one of the things that Orson Scott Card recommended, and he kind of talked about basing characters on people in his book Characters and Viewpoint, which is an excellent book. And in that book, he kind of cautions people basing characters on people that they know. And the reason that he says that is, he's like, it's better to just not tell them that you've based a character on them, because and I agree with that, and I'll tell you why in a second. But the and the reason you said that it's better just not to tell them is because if you base a character on someone and then you take artistic liberties with them and then you tell them, well, hey, I based this character on you, then once they read the story, they'll be like, that's not like me at all, and they can get super offended and maybe like get their feelings seriously hurt based on whatever the character does in the story. And that's why he's like, yeah, like, you know, if you're gonna base character on someone, like, don't even tell them. And so one of the reasons that I do agree with that is that even with Bryan Ingham's character, you know, I based it on him, but in taking artistic liberties just in order to get the story to work, in order to get it to go in the directions it needed to go, I did have to take artistic liberties that were out of character for like the real Bryan Ingham, but you know, worked for this fictitious character. And so what ended up happening is it ended up being a hybrid between, you know, like make believe and then like what Bryan actually would say and do in these situations, to where it in the end was a hybrid between the two, and it was a completely new character that just emerged on its own. And I love the way that Bryan came out in the story, and I'm actually really glad that I ended up doing this with Bryan, because it I was able to capture him in a lot of ways, and in that way was able to be kind of a neat tribute to him. And so anyway, that's a little bit more about the character Bryan Ingham in the story, and I'm excited for everyone to read it and give me feedback on what they think. I'd love to hear what you think about the character Bryan Ingham. And yeah, it was a blast to write, and yeah, I think he'll be a good friend forever. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video.